Hello, my name is Vanessa Vallon. Welcome to Channel 69. Now introducing our first story is Naturalist Ciara Buena.
I'm Naturalist Ciara Buena, and today I will be explaining our first issue of agriculture. Agriculture is the modification of Earth's surface through the cultivation of plants or the rearing of animals for economic sustenance gain. Geographers do not know the origins of agriculture because they began way before recorded history. Before the agricultural revolution occurred, people obtained food from hunting and gathering. Hunters and gatherers would stay in small groups containing 50 or even less. The woman would pick up berries while the men would hunt animals in the surrounding areas.
Today, only 250,000 people, or less than 0.005% of the world's population, still survives by hunting and gathering. Most are in isolated groups living on the periphery of the world. Agriculture originated in multiple hearts around the world. In Southwest Asia, barley and wheat were the earliest crops to be domesticated around 10,000 years ago. In East Asia, rice was also domesticated 10,000 years ago. In Sub-Saharan Africa, yams and sorghum were domesticated 8,000 years ago. In Latin America, beans, cotton, potato, and maize were the most important crops that were domesticated. Animals were also domesticated in multiple hearts. In Southwest Asia, cattle, goats, pigs, and sheep were domesticated between 8,000 and 9,000 years ago. Dogs were domesticated 12,000 years ago in Southwest Asia, East Asia, and Europe. Horses were domesticated in Central Asia. In Peru, the llama and alpaca were domesticated 6,000 years ago. Less developed countries and more developed countries practice two different types of agriculture. Less developed countries practice subsistence agriculture, which is the production of food primarily for consumption by the farmer's family. More developed countries practice commercial agriculture, which is the production of food for sale off the farm. The factors differentiate the two are percentage of farmers in labor force, use of machinery, and farm size. In more developed countries, only 5% of workers are farmers, compared to 44% in less developed countries. This is because more people are working in tertiary jobs in more developed countries. Commercial farmers have access to more machinery, technology, and scientific advances that allow them to feed a larger amount of people. Subsistence farmers do much of their work by hand or animals, which makes it harder to produce as much food as commercial farmers. Average size of commercial farms are 161 hectares, while subsistence farms average 1 hectare, because machinery performs more efficiently at very large scales.
Now moving on to key issue 2 is Gabby Murrieta.
Diet. Dietary energy consumption is the amount of food that an individual consumes. All around the world, the consumption of food differs for two main reasons. 1, the level of development, and 2, the physical conditions. Developed and developing regions usually are different in most of their main sources of protein consumed. In developed countries, their leading source of protein is poultry meat, and in developing countries, the leading source of protein is cereal grains. Undernourishment. Undernourishment is dietary energy consumption that is continuously below the minimum requirement for maintaining a healthy life and carrying out light physical activity. The UN estimates 850 million people in the world are undernourished. 99% of those people are located in developing countries, and in the whole entire world, the number of undernourished people hasn't changed in decades.
Now explaining key issue 3 is Alicia Morales.
Hi, I'm Alicia Morales. Geographer Dermot Whittlesey identified 11 main agriculture regions, plus an area where agriculture was non-existent. There are still 5 present in developing countries.
The 5 present in developing countries is pastoral nomadism, intensive subsistence, which is wet rice dominant, intensive subsistence, which is anything other than wet rice, and plantation and shifting cultivation.
The 6 present still in developed countries are mixed crop and livestock, dairying, grain, ranching, Mediterranean, and commercial grain. Pastoral nomadism is a form of subsistent agriculture based on the herding of domesticated animals. Various approaches combine some reliance on the sedentary agriculture with the herding of livestock. Some pastoral nomads obtain grain from sedentary subsistent farmers. More commonly, women and children of nomadic groups tend to crop at a fixed location. Shifting cultivation is characterized by 2 factors. 1, farmers clear land by planting by using slash and burn, and 2, farmers grow crops and leave them there for years. Intensive subsistence farming feeds 3/4 of the world's population living in developing countries. Farmers work intensively to subsist on a parcel of a land.
Hi, I'm naturalist Vanessa Vallon, and I will be explaining half of Key Issue 3. Agribusiness is a large food production industry. Mixed crop and livestock farming is the integration of crops and livestock. Most crops on the farm are fed to the animals. Mixed crop and livestock farming typically uses the method of crop rotation, which is taking crops from different fields and moving them around all year so the soil doesn't lose all of its nutrients. Dairy farming is the most important type of commercial agriculture in the first ring of the von Thunen model. Dairy farmers typically sell their milk to wholesalers, and then wholesalers sell it to retailers, and retailers sell it to people in shops or people at their homes. Milk production has gone up in developing regions, but it has stayed at a pretty consistent rate in developed. Commercial gardening and fruit farming is a predominant method of farming. It is also called truck farming and is mainly used in southeastern U.S. Some of the fruits that are sold will be sold fresh, while others are sold to large processors for canning or freezing. Labor costs are kept down by hiring migrant farm workers. Grain farming is almost the complete opposite of mixed crop and livestock farming because the food made is primarily consumed by humans. Farms sell grain to manufacturers of food products such as cereal and bread. Some characteristics of a grain farm is that they're heavily mechanized and they have super huge fields. Most wheat is grown in China. Mediterranean agriculture is a form of agriculture where most sites are based along the sea or west coast of most continents. It mainly consists of products that aren't meat. Horticulture is the growing of fruits, veggies, flowers, and tree crops for commercial agriculture. Olives and grapes are the most important cash crops. Livestock ranching is a form of commercial grazing over an extensive area. Lands best suited are arid or semi-arid. These are practiced in developed regions because vegetation is too sparse. And historically, ranchers brought cattle from Texas to Chicago because cattle were worth more in the north. Naturalist Brianna Cosio is next on Key Issue 4.
Hi, I'm naturalist Brianna Cosio. Challenges for farmers in developing countries consist of subsistence farmers needing to feed an increasing number of people because of rapid population growth. Food supply increased through the intensity of production from new farming methods. Subsistence farmers also must grow food for export instead of for direct consumption due to the adoption of international trade approach. Challenges for farmers in developed countries consist of overproduction in commercial farming. Commercial farmers have low income because they produce more food than demand. Also, the U.S. government has formed policies to attempt to address excess production. The von Thunen model helps explain the importance of distance to market. There's 4 rings that are specific crops grown in different areas. The first ring is highly perishable products. The second ring is heavy items to transport. The third ring is various crops, and the fourth ring is land for animal grazing. 4 strategies to increase world's food supply. 1. Increasing exports from countries with surpluses. 2. Expand land for agriculture. 3. Expand fishing. And 4. Increasing productivity of agriculture.
4 strategies are being employed to help distribute food to people around the world. Our first strategy is increasing exports from countries with surpluses. On a global scale, agricultural products are moving from the Western to Eastern Hemisphere. The U.S. remains the world's leading exporter of grain, and half of the world's maize exports come from here as well. Global share has decreased because of the rapid increase in agricultural exports from Latin America and Southeast Asia. This graph shows the growth in agricultural exports. It includes the increase over time and the amount in billion dollars made from it. Our next strategy is expanding agricultural land. Few scientists believe that further expansion of agricultural land can feed the growing world population. Farmland in some regions is being abandoned for the lack of water and other causes like desertification that is known to be caused by humans. In the graph shown, we see little to no growth in agricultural land from 1960 to 2010, yet over that time span we see a high population growth. Our next strategy is expanding fishing. Fishing is the capture of wild fish and other seafood, whereas aquaculture is the cultivation of seafood under controlled conditions. Human consumption of fish and seafood has increased from 27 million metric tons from 1960 to 110 million metric tons in 2010. In the graph below, we see the growth of human consumption of fish all around the world, from lower developed countries to higher developed countries, and the rapid increase over time. Our last strategy is increasing productivity. Invention and rapid diffusion of more productive agricultural techniques from 1970 to 80 is called the Green Revolution. The Green Revolution allowed agricultural productivity to outpace population growth and expanded the use of fertilizers. In the graph below, we see food production finally surpassed population growth over time thanks to the Green Revolution and new inventions allowing crops to grow faster than ever and finally surpass population growth. Sustainable agriculture is the last topic discussed in Key Issue 4. Sustainable agriculture are practices that preserve and enhance environmental quality. 3 main principal practices are included. First being sensitive land management, the second being limited use to chemicals, and the third being better integration of crops and livestock.